The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus summarized the most staggering law of the universe in a single word: Enantiodromia. It literally means running toward the opposite. According to Heraclitus, everything eventually turns into its opposite. The hot cools, the living die, and anything carried to an extreme gives birth to its own antithesis. For Carl Jung, this was not just a philosophical theory, but the soul's most terrifying yet most healing mechanism. Today on Shadow Atlas, we will explore why your life swings from one extreme to another and discover the mythical secret behind this massive pendulum. Jung states that when our consciousness develops excessively in one direction, our psychic balance is disrupted. The harder you pull a pendulum in one direction, the more violently it will strike the opposite side when released. We can explain this with a medical analogy. When your body temperature rises excessively, your system begins to sweat to cool you down. The soul works in the same way. When you adopt a mask of extreme rationalism or extreme goodness, the suppressed shadow side suddenly erupts in a search for psychological homeostasis. This return of the pendulum is not a malfunction. It is the soul's attempt to heal itself, a process of compensation. We can see enantiodromia everywhere today. Extreme diets. A typical example of enantiodromia is when weeks of an excessively strict diet end in a sudden, uncontrollable, binge-eating episode one night. Rigid moralism. It is no coincidence that figures who advocate for the harshest moral rules in society often suddenly swing to the opposite pole through a major scandal. Suppressed energy always leaks from the weakest point. Workaholism. When someone who has focused solely on their career for years wakes up one morning wanting to leave everything behind and move to a quiet village, it is that massive leap the soul takes toward the long-neglected life pole. Jung experienced this law personally. In 1913, while a respected scientist at the peak of his career, his mind hurled him into a mythical chaos, a world of visions. Without this jarring transformation, the depth psychology we know today would never have been born. The most beautiful example of this mythical transformation is the trickster figure, initially a sinister force that makes foolish mistakes and disrupts everything. The trickster transforms into a savior at the end of the cycle. When you accept your own darkness, the shadow, and your mistakes, that darkness can become your greatest ally. Enantiodromia governs not only individuals, but societies as well. If an idea or lifestyle becomes excessively dominant in a society, the collective unconscious reacts violently. History is full of radical explosions of freedom following periods of extreme conservatism, or spiritual awakenings following periods of extreme rationalism. A society that does not recognize the duality within itself is destined to become the victim of the monster it created. Is it possible to avoid becoming a victim of this pendulum? Jung's answer is simple: wholeness. We must learn to see the darkness within the light and the light within the darkness, yin and yang, simultaneously. If something in your life is suddenly turning into its opposite, or if you find yourself in the midst of a crisis, stop and remember this law. Perhaps your soul is playing a mythical joke to save you from your arrogance and is pushing you toward a broader self. Enantiodromia is not a catastrophe. It is the dance of life balancing itself. Subscribe to Shadow Atlas and continue to explore this magnificent map of opposites with us.